The sun dipped low over Austin, casting a warm glow that filtered through the trees lining our suburban street. I stood in the kitchen, the aroma of dinner wafting through the air as I stirred a pot of chile. It was one of those evenings when everything felt right. My son, Alex, had just returned from school, his backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. He dropped it on the floor with a thud and plopped onto the couch, his face a mask of exhaustion. "Long day?" I asked, glancing back at him as I added spices to the simmering pot. "Yeah," he sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "Math is killing me." I turned off the stove and walked over to him. "Want to talk about it?" He shrugged but didn't look away from the television. The familiar hum of animated characters filled the room, but I could see he wasn't really watching. His mind was elsewhere. "Maybe later," he muttered. I sat beside him, feeling an urge to comfort him. As a mother, I had always been attuned to his moods. But today felt different. There was an undercurrent of something deeper stirring within me as I watched him fidget with the remote control. My gaze lingered on his profile, the way his jawline was beginning to define itself, how he carried himself with an unspoken confidence that both proud and unsettling. I shook my head slightly as if trying to dispel strange thoughts that crept in uninvited. This was my son, he was still just a boy in so many ways. Yet there was something about him today that made my heart race, his vulnerability mixed with an emerging charm that caught me off guard. "Why don't you take a break?" I suggested gently. "You've been working hard." "I guess," he replied absently, finally turning toward me. His eyes held a hint of weariness that tugged at my heartstrings. As we settled into silence, my eyes wandered around our living room, a space filled with memories and laughter but also shadows of unspoken worries. My gaze fell upon an old photo frame resting on the shelf above us. It captured a moment from years ago, Alex's first day of kindergarten, bright-eyed and innocent with his little backpack almost swallowing him whole. I reached for it instinctively, nostalgia washing over me like a wave. The picture brought back memories of simpler times when life felt uncomplicated and pure. A smile crept across my face as I recalled how he would run into my arms after school, eager to share stories about his day. "Mom?" Alex's voice pulled me from my reverie. "Yes?" I turned back toward him, holding the frame tightly as if it could anchor me in this moment. "Can you help me with math later? I'm really struggling." He looked vulnerable then, his youthful bravado stripped away for just a moment. "Of course," I said softly, placing the photo back down carefully as if it were fragile glass rather than mere cardboard and ink. "We can go over it together." He nodded appreciatively but then quickly shifted back into his teenage shell, retreating into silence again. My heart swelled with love for him but also tightened with something else, an awareness of how quickly time had passed and how much he had grown up right before my eyes. Later that evening while preparing for bed, I noticed Alex sitting on the edge of his bed staring blankly at his homework spread out before him like an insurmountable mountain. My instinct was to rush in and offer comfort again, to wrap my arms around him and ease away the stress weighing down on those young shoulders. Instead, I hesitated at his doorframe, grappling with conflicting emotions swirling inside me like autumn leaves caught in a gusty wind. What was happening? Why did every protective instinct feel tinged with something more complicated? In that moment of uncertainty, I thought back to what Sarah had said earlier at our coffee date, the way she remarked on Alex's charm during their brief encounter at last week's neighborhood festival. Her words echoed in my mind, "He's going to be quite the catch someday." Those words lingered uncomfortably as they collided with thoughts about how much Alex had grown, not just physically but emotionally too, and how those changes stirred feelings within me that were entirely inappropriate yet undeniably present. With each passing day, it felt harder to dismiss these thoughts as mere maternal instincts or fleeting feelings. They clung stubbornly like ivy creeping up an old wall, impossible to ignore yet difficult to confront directly. As night settled in around us like a heavy blanket draped over our home, I made my way down the hallway toward him again, this time more resolute than before despite lingering doubts gnawing at me from within. "Hey," I said softly as I entered his room without knocking, a habit formed from years of close familiarity. "Need help?" He looked up at me then, a mix of relief and vulnerability crossing his features, as if he'd been waiting for this very moment all along yet unsure whether he should hope for it or not. "Yeah," he replied quietly as he gestured toward the math problems scattered across his desk. I moved closer and sat beside him on the bed while we began working through equations together under dim light, a small act laden with significance that seemed to pull us closer than ever before without either of us fully understanding why or how far those boundaries might stretch between mother and son. As we worked together late into the night amidst laughter punctuated by moments of frustration over stubborn math problems, the air thickened around us until everything felt charged. Every touch became electric even though we remained focused on homework rather than acknowledging what lay beneath our interaction's surface, a tension neither dared name aloud yet could no longer ignore entirely either. And just when everything seemed perfect, the clock chimed softly signaling midnight. I heard footsteps approaching down the hallway followed by familiar voices echoing from downstairs. My husband returning home unexpectedly early from work disrupted our fragile bubble, leaving behind only questions hanging heavily in unspoken air between us both. A reminder that reality would soon crash down upon us once more, shattering whatever delicate balance we'd begun navigating together tonight against all odds. As the sound of my husband's footsteps grew louder, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The laughter that had filled the room moments before now felt distant, overshadowed by the weight of reality crashing back in. I glanced at my son, his expression a mixture of confusion and concern. He sensed the shift too, the way the air thickened with unspoken words and emotions we both dared not voice. "Mom," he asked, breaking the silence that had enveloped us. His voice was soft yet laced with an urgency that tugged at my heart. "Are you okay?" I nodded, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just tired, sweetheart. We've been at this for hours." I tried to sound casual, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. The front door creaked open, and I could hear my husband greeting our neighbor as he stepped inside. "I'll be right back," I whispered to my son, needing a moment to collect myself before facing him. I slipped out of the room and made my way downstairs, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. As I entered the living room, I found my husband chatting amiably with Mr. Thompson from next door. Their voices blended into a comforting background noise while I busied myself with mundane tasks, straightening cushions on the couch and fluffing throw blankets, anything to distract from what had just transpired upstairs. "Hey there," my husband said as he caught sight of me. His smile was warm and familiar, yet it felt miles away from what had just unfolded between our son and me. "Hi," I replied, forcing cheer into my tone. "How was work?" "Busy as usual," he said with a sigh, running a hand through his hair. "But it's good to be home now." I watched him for a moment, feeling a pang of guilt twist in my chest. He didn't know about the tension brewing beneath our roof. He didn't see how close our son and I had become in recent weeks, a closeness that felt both comforting and terrifying. As Mr. Thompson excused himself and left us alone again, I took a deep breath and tried to shake off the unease that clung to me like an unwanted shadow. My husband plopped down on the couch beside me. "Everything okay?" he asked, tilting his head slightly as he studied me. "Yeah," I replied too quickly. "Just a long day." He nodded but didn't seem convinced. The concern etched on his face deepened for a moment before he shifted topics back to work, something safe that wouldn't provoke any further questions. Meanwhile, thoughts of what had transpired upstairs loomed large in my mind, the warmth of his skin beneath my fingertips during our study session still tingling against memory's backdrop. It was innocent enough. We were merely trying to relieve stress through massage therapy under the guise of motherly care. Yet every touch felt loaded with something more, a connection that blurred lines between affection and desire. Later that night after dinner, once dishes were washed and put away, I found myself wandering back upstairs toward my son's room under some pretext of checking in on him before bed. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of distant traffic outside, a reminder of life continuing beyond our walls despite what simmered within them. I knocked gently before entering without waiting for an answer. He looked up from his desk where scattered papers lay haphazardly alongside textbooks half opened but untouched since dinner began hours earlier. "Hey," I said softly as he turned toward me with those bright eyes full of curiosity mixed with something else, something deeper than mere affection or concern. "Can we talk?" he asked hesitantly. My heart raced at those words. They held so much weight between us now, a gravity neither one dared fully acknowledge yet couldn't escape either. "Of course," I replied as I settled onto the edge of his bed while he leaned back against his chair, a familiar position we'd shared countless times before but now felt charged with unspoken tension hanging thickly around us like fog rolling through an empty street at dawn. "I've been thinking about us," he began cautiously as if testing waters too deep for either one of us to wade into freely without fear or consequence lingering nearby threatening to pull us under should we stray too far from shore. "What do you mean?" My voice came out steadier than expected despite everything swirling inside me, an internal struggle between wanting him close yet fearing where those desires might lead us both if unleashed fully without restraint or boundaries drawn firmly around our heart's intentions. "I don't know how else to say this." He paused briefly searching for words while glancing down at his hands fidgeting nervously against each other before finally meeting my gaze again resolutely determined now not to shy away from whatever truth lay ahead waiting patiently beneath layers built over years, spent together navigating life's complexities side by side until now when everything seemed so uncertain suddenly threatening everything we'd known thus far about love, family, friendship, trust. Safety, security, even hope itself hanging precariously within reach, just beyond fingertips grasping desperately towards something intangible yet undeniably real all at once. We kissed, slipped out before either one could stop it. A confession so raw it hung heavy between us like an electric charge ready to ignite flames long buried beneath layers kept hidden away until tonight when vulnerability finally broke free leaving behind only questions lingering unanswered echoing endlessly throughout space separating two souls once intertwined now drifting apart searching desperately for connection amidst chaos enveloping them both unable or unwilling yet still yearning. Deeply enough not quite ready yet let go completely. My breath caught in response as shock coursed through me followed swiftly by something else entirely. A rush of warmth flooding every inch filling voids previously untouched awakening dormant desires stirring restlessly beneath surface long kept hidden away safely locked behind walls built high enough keep world outside safe from knowing truth lurking within hearts beating wildly against chests aching silently yearn fulfillment denied far too long already. "What do we do?" His voice trembled slightly betraying uncertainty lingering just below surface calm facade trying maintain control over spiraling emotions threatening overwhelm both simultaneously should they dare reveal themselves fully exposed no longer able contain themselves any longer trapped within confines imposed upon them by societal norms expectations placed upon families like ours meant protect innocence preserve purity shield children from darkness creeping ever closer threatening consume everything good left behind. "I don't know," came out barely above whisper filled with longing desperate wish escape confines reality bound tightly around us suffocating slowly choking joy laughter memories cherished shared previously together transformed bittersweet now tainted shadows cast over light once bright. Illuminating paths ahead filled promise possibility adventure awaiting discovery free exploration beyond boundaries set forth long ago forgotten lost somewhere along way journey taken together hand in hand. Through life navigating twists turns unexpected detours along way leading here right now standing precariously edge precipice unsure whether leap faith would yield reward or plunge depths despair forever altering course destiny laid out ahead. The moment stretched endlessly until finally breaking apart, leaving behind echoes fading softly into silence surrounding us both, enveloping warmth, shared moments past, lingering sweetly bittersweet taste left behind, lingering memories etched forever, hearts intertwined forever, changed by choices made tonight, regardless consequences looming overhead, casting dark shadows across futures uncertain, still filled, hope, dreams waiting patiently unfold. The air in the room felt thick with unspoken words and emotions as I sat on the edge of my son's bed, my heart racing. I had offered to help him relax after a long week of school, but now, every touch carried an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I could see the tension in his shoulders ease as I began to massage them, but with each movement, the lines between motherly care and something more blurred dangerously. As my fingers worked their way across his back, I struggled to push aside the thoughts that threatened to overwhelm me. The warmth of his skin beneath my hands ignited a fire within me that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Guilt twisted in my stomach like a knot. How could I feel this way? He was my son. Yet, as he leaned into my touch, a sigh escaping his lips, it felt like we were crossing an invisible line together. Suddenly, the front door creaked open downstairs. My heart dropped as I recognized the sound of my husband's voice echoing through the hallway. The moment shattered like glass around us. Panic surged through me as I quickly withdrew my hands from his back, sitting stiffly at the edge of the bed. "Mom," he asked softly, confusion etched on his face. Just a moment," I stammered, trying to regain composure while glancing toward the door. My husband's footsteps grew louder, and dread settled heavily in my chest. He had no idea what was happening just moments before. He was blissfully unaware of this fragile secret we were nurturing. "Are you okay?" My son's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. I forced a smile that felt foreign on my lips. "Yes, just tired." The words tasted bitter as they left my mouth. What kind of mother was I? Before he could respond, his trustful gaze pierced through me like an arrow. "I appreciate you helping me with this," he said quietly. "You always know how to make things better." Those simple words struck deep within me. They were innocent yet heavy with implications that made me question everything about our relationship. As much as they warmed my heart, they also ignited a sense of dread about where we were headed. "I'm glad you feel that way," I replied carefully, searching for something reassuring to say without revealing too much of what stirred beneath the surface. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog as we exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding, an understanding neither of us dared to fully acknowledge yet. Then came another interruption, my husband's voice rising from downstairs as he called for me again. "Honey, are you up there?" My heart raced again as panic gripped me tightly. "Coming," I shouted back more forcefully than intended before turning back to face my son once more. He looked at me with wide eyes filled with questions that remained unasked. Our moment had slipped away like sand through fingers. All that lingered now was uncertainty and fear. "I'll be right back," I said quickly before standing up and making for the door. As I stepped out into the hallway, each step felt heavier than the last. My husband stood at the bottom of the stairs looking up at me expectantly, his presence grounding yet suffocating all at once. "Everything all right?" he asked casually but with an undertone that suggested he sensed something amiss. "Yeah," I replied too quickly again, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes while trying to shake off the residue of what just transpired upstairs. He nodded but didn't seem convinced. "Just checking in on you." His brow furrowed slightly. It was clear he noticed something off about me today. I could hardly focus on what he said next about his day or plans for dinner because all I could think about was how close we had come to crossing an irrevocable line, the weight of it pressing down on me like a stone lodged deep in my chest. Later that evening after dinner, a tense affair filled with forced laughter and polite conversation, I found myself alone for a brief moment in our living room while my husband went upstairs to unwind after work. The quiet enveloped me like a shroud. It was both comforting and haunting at once. I sank into our worn-out couch and let out a shaky breath while replaying everything from earlier. Our shared moment upstairs, the warmth between us, the way our lips met briefly during an accidental brush against one another when I leaned too close while massaging him. The memory sent heat flooding through me again despite knowing how wrong it all was, a fleeting connection sparked by emotions tangled up in love and care yet tainted by something darker lurking beneath surface layers of familial affection. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching from behind me. Instinctively turning toward them revealed not who I expected but rather a figure standing framed against dim light spilling from another room. It was him, my son. His expression curious yet uncertain, as if sensing something shifted between us since earlier today. "What are you doing?" he asked softly before taking another step closer into view. Eyes searching mine for answers unspoken lingering there still hanging heavy between us both now thicker than air itself filling space around us until it became almost unbearable pressure pushing against walls surrounding us too tightly constricting any chance escape might provide. "I just needed some time alone," came out almost instinctively. But even saying those words felt hollow somehow lacking true meaning behind them when all along what truly needed addressing lay buried beneath layers accumulated over years spent together navigating life side by side unaware potential dangers lurking ahead, waiting patiently until moments arrived when cracks would begin forming revealing hidden truths unable remain concealed forevermore. He hesitated before taking another step forward, a silent plea reflected within those young eyes imploring trust while simultaneously igniting fears already bubbling beneath surface threatening eruption if not contained soon enough. Before either one of us could speak again though, a loud noise echoed from upstairs abruptly breaking tension enveloping room turning attention away momentarily towards source sound reverberating throughout house now drawing closer until finally bursting forth revealing unexpected visitor emerging unexpectedly into view catching both off guard entirely leaving behind remnants chaos previously contained within hearts yearning desperately find solace amidst turmoil raging just outside grasp control. With every second ticking past now laden heavy anticipation filled air around us shaping reality shifting dynamics forever altering course laid out ahead forcing decisions confrontations inevitable looming overhead casting shadows across futures. Uncertain still filled hope dreams waiting patiently unfold. The unexpected visitor stood in the doorway, a familiar face that sent a ripple of anxiety through me. My heart raced as I recognized Lisa, an old friend from my college days. She had always been the life of the party, her laughter infectious and her energy boundless. But now, as she stepped inside with a bright smile, I felt a wave of unease wash over me. "Hey! I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by," she exclaimed, glancing between my son and me. The warmth of her presence contrasted sharply with the tension that had filled the room moments before. "What are you two up to?" I forced a smile, my mind racing to mask the chaos swirling beneath the surface. "Just hanging out," I replied, trying to sound casual while my heart pounded in my chest. My son shifted uncomfortably beside me, his earlier confession still lingering in the air like an uninvited guest. "Oh? You're not studying or anything?" Lisa leaned against the wall, arms crossed with an amused expression. "You should be taking advantage of your mom's talents while you can." There was an edge of teasing in her voice that made me wince inwardly. "Mom's just helping me relax," he said quietly, his eyes darting away from mine. The weight of our shared secret hung between us like a fragile thread that could snap at any moment. Lisa chuckled lightly but then paused, sensing something deeper beneath our exchange. "You two seem close," she observed, tilting her head slightly as if trying to read between the lines. My stomach twisted at her words. What would she think if she knew the truth? "Yeah," I managed to say, forcing nonchalance into my tone. "Just trying to support him during finals." She nodded but didn't seem convinced. "You know how it is, stress can really get to you." Her gaze lingered on my son for a moment longer than necessary before shifting back to me. "Have you thought about getting away for a bit?" A little getaway might do you both some good. The suggestion hung in the air like a tempting fruit ripe for picking. A getaway sounded perfect, just us together without prying eyes or judgmental glances, but reality crashed down around me like thunder after lightning. Maybe, I replied softly, feeling my son's eyes on me again, searching for reassurance that I wasn't about to shatter everything we had built in this fragile cocoon we were weaving together. Lisa changed the subject then, launching into stories about mutual friends and recent escapades that seemed so far removed from my current life. As she spoke animatedly about parties and gatherings filled with laughter and joy, I felt increasingly detached from it all. My thoughts drifted back to moments shared with my son, the intimacy we had discovered under the guise of care and affection. The memory of how we spent the night together echoed through my mind like an insistent whisper that wouldn't fade away. "Are you okay?" Lisa interrupted my reverie with concern etched on her face. "You seem a bit out of it." I forced another smile, this one more genuine than before. "Just tired," I said quickly, hoping she would buy it. "Well, don't let me keep you. Just wanted to check in on you both," she said cheerfully as she moved toward the door again. "Let's catch up soon." As she left, relief washed over me like rain after a long drought but was quickly replaced by dread at what might happen next. The momentary distraction had given us just enough time to breathe but hadn't erased what lay ahead. Once Lisa was gone and silence enveloped us once more, I turned slowly to face my son who looked equally relieved yet burdened by what had just transpired. "That was unexpected," he said quietly as he rubbed his neck nervously. "Yeah," I agreed softly. The weight of our reality pressed heavily upon us again now that we were alone once more. "I don't want anyone finding out," he said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper as if saying it aloud could conjure up unwanted consequences. "I don't either," I admitted honestly as I tried to gauge his expression, a mixture of fear and longing danced across his features. He took a deep breath before speaking again. "I meant what I said earlier, about wanting more time together." His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race once more. "I know," I replied gently, each word felt heavy-laden with unspoken truths between us, a bridge connecting our desires but also warning us of danger lurking just beyond reach. "We could," he began hesitantly before cutting himself off abruptly as if afraid even voicing those thoughts would shatter everything we had built so far. "I'm scared too," I confessed finally after several seconds stretched into eternity between us filled only by our breaths mingling in shared uncertainty about where this path might lead us both next. He nodded slowly while biting his lip nervously, vulnerability etched across his face mirrored within myself as well, a reflection of two souls caught in tumultuous waves threatening to pull them under if they ventured too far into uncharted waters together without lifelines anchored firmly back home where responsibilities awaited patiently outside this secret world we created. Within those fleeting moments spent alone, we stood there for what felt like hours lost within each other's gaze until finally breaking apart when reality crept back into focus reminding us both why we couldn't stay lost forever. The door creaked open behind us unexpectedly revealing another figure stepping inside, the unmistakable silhouette of my husband walking through threshold carrying bags filled with groceries oblivious yet somehow aware enough to sense something amiss hanging thickly around atmosphere left behind by previous conversations not meant for ears outside our sanctuary. "Hey. What's going on?" he asked cheerfully unaware how precariously balanced everything truly was right now teetering on edge waiting for one misstep send crashing down around all three hearts yearning desperately find solace amidst turmoil raging just outside grasp control. As my husband entered the room, the warmth of his presence contrasted sharply with the chill that had settled in my heart. He was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface, and I couldn't help but feel a rush of guilt wash over me. The laughter from the kitchen felt distant, muffled by my racing thoughts as I struggled to maintain a semblance of normalcy. "Hey. What's going on?" he asked cheerfully, his smile radiating a sense of comfort that felt increasingly foreign to me. I turned slowly, forcing a smile in return, but I could sense the tension in my shoulders, the way they had tightened instinctively at his arrival. "Just helping our son relax," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. The words hung in the air like an uninvited guest. My husband's brow furrowed slightly at my tone, and for a moment, I feared he might see through the facade. "Good idea," he said, moving closer to where we stood. "He's been under so much stress lately." There was an earnestness in his voice that made my heart ache further. How could I reconcile this loving man with the turmoil churning within me? As he unpacked groceries from the bags he carried, I stole glances at our son, who had retreated to his room after our intimate moment. The door was closed. It felt like a barrier between two worlds, the one where everything was as it should be and another where desires tangled dangerously close to forbidden territory. I tried to focus on mundane tasks as my husband hummed softly while putting away items in the fridge. "Did you remember to get that cheese we like?" I asked absently, forcing myself back into routine. "Of course. Can't forget your favorites." He chuckled lightly, but there was an edge to it that hinted at something deeper, concern perhaps? I busied myself with cutting vegetables for dinner while stealing glances at him. His back was turned as he rummaged through a drawer for cooking utensils. My mind drifted back to earlier moments with our son, the weight of his trust resting on my shoulders and how easily it had transformed into something more complicated. The sound of laughter echoed from outside. Children played freely in the fading light of evening. It reminded me of simpler times when worries were few and innocence reigned supreme. Yet here I stood, ensnared by conflicting emotions that threatened to unravel everything we had built together. A sudden knock at the door jolted me from my reverie. My heart raced as my husband called out for me to answer it. "Could you get that?" His voice carried an undertone of urgency that made me hesitate. I opened the door cautiously and found myself face to face with Mrs. Thompson, our neighbor, a friendly woman known for her penchant for gossip and keen observations about our lives. "Hi there. Sorry to bother you," she said cheerily but eyed me closely as if sensing something amiss. "No bother at all." I forced a smile despite feeling exposed under her scrutiny. "I just wanted to check in on you guys," she continued casually, but her gaze lingered too long on my face before shifting toward the interior of our home. "You seem a bit distracted lately." Her words sliced through me like a knife. How could she tell? "Everything's fine," I replied quickly, hoping to dismiss her concerns before they took root. "Oh good. Just making sure you're all okay." She smiled warmly, but there was an edge behind her eyes, an unspoken question lingering between us about what truly lay beneath surface appearances. As she departed with a wave goodbye, I closed the door slowly behind her and leaned against it for support. The weight of her visit pressed down heavily on me. Could others sense this turmoil? My heart raced again as I considered what would happen if anyone discovered what had transpired between my son and me. Dinner passed uneventfully, small talk filled spaces left by unvoiced thoughts swirling within me like leaves caught in an autumn windstorm. My husband shared stories about work while our son remained quiet, lost in whatever world occupied his mind now. Afterward, when we settled onto couches for family movie night, a ritual meant to bind us closer, I noticed how distant we all felt despite being physically together. My husband laughed at jokes on screen while our son remained pensive beside him. Shadows danced across their faces illuminated by flickering light, yet darkness loomed over us all, threatening to consume everything we held dear if exposed too soon. Then came another knock, this time louder than before, shattering fragile peace, encasing us within these walls once more. My heart sank as dread filled every corner of my being. Was this fate pushing forward recklessly? I exchanged glances with my husband, who looked equally perplexed by sudden interruptions tonight, and perhaps sensing something more than just friendly neighbors seeking company or conversation. With trepidation coursing through veins like ice water freezing every thought into stillness, I opened door again, only this time revealing someone entirely unexpected, Mr. Edwards, the school counselor who had previously spoken with both myself and our son regarding academic pressures weighing heavily upon him lately. Mrs. M., he began awkwardly before clearing throat, visibly uncomfortable standing there uninvited yet undeniably present now amidst chaos brewing inside household already strained beyond limits known thus far. Mr. Edwards, I managed, finally, feeling heat rise, cheeks betraying composure, slipping ever so slightly away just beneath surface where reality collided harshly against desires buried deep within shadows cast long ago. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, he said, cautiously glancing around before fixing eyes directly onto mine, searching perhaps for answers hidden well beneath layers crafted carefully over years spent building lives together. The air thickened around us as silence enveloped, moments stretching infinitely until finally breaking free, revealing truths left unsaid, waiting patiently until now, demanding acknowledgement whether ready or not. I stood there, caught in a moment that felt too heavy to bear. My husband's gaze pierced through the layers I had wrapped around myself, layers that had begun to fray under the weight of my conflicting emotions. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. I could see the concern etched on his face, a reflection of the turmoil brewing within me. "Are you all right?" he finally asked, his voice low and cautious. It was a question that held more than just concern for my well-being. It was an inquiry into the depths of my heart, where shadows danced with secrets I dared not share. "I'm fine," I replied, perhaps too quickly. The word felt inadequate, a flimsy shield against the truth lurking just beneath the surface. As I glanced away, thoughts of my son flooded my mind, the way he had looked at me recently, with eyes that seemed to search for something deeper than mere maternal affection. I turned back to my husband, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just a lot on my mind," I added, hoping it would suffice to ease his worries. But I could see it didn't, his brow furrowed deeper as if he sensed more than I was willing to confess. "Is there something you want to talk about?" he pressed gently, but the tension in his voice suggested he feared what might come next. "No," I said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at me. Part of me longed for him to push further, to pry open the door I had slammed shut so many times before. Yet another part wanted desperately to keep everything hidden away, my feelings for our son and the guilt that clung to me like a second skin. The moment hung between us like an uninvited guest. My heart raced as memories of stolen glances and tender touches flashed before me, each one more intoxicating than the last. In those fleeting moments with my son, we had created a world where boundaries blurred and desires took root in places they should never have gone. "I got an interesting job offer today," he said suddenly, breaking through my reverie. "It would mean relocating." The words fell from his lips like stones dropped into still water, sending ripples through the fragile fabric of our lives. Relocating? The thought sent a jolt through me. Austin was home, the vibrant city where our family had grown together amidst laughter and love. The idea of leaving felt like losing a part of myself. "Where would we go?" "Chicago," he replied casually as if it were nothing more than a change of scenery. "They want me to head up their new project." I felt my stomach drop at the implications behind those words. Chicago was far from everything we had built here, the friends we cherished and the routines we relied on for comfort amidst chaos. But deeper still was the fear of what such a move would mean for my relationship with our son, a relationship already teetering on precarious ground. "Have you thought about it?" I asked cautiously, trying to mask my rising panic. "I'm considering it," he admitted after a pause that felt eternal. "But it's not just about me, it affects all of us." His gaze softened as if he sensed how deeply this news rattled me. I nodded absently while grappling with swirling thoughts about what this change could mean for our family dynamic, and for my secret life hidden beneath layers of normalcy. Would leaving Austin allow me to escape these feelings? Or would they follow me into whatever future awaited? "Maybe we should talk about this later," I suggested quietly, eager to shift focus away from the tumult within me. His expression shifted slightly as if reading between lines unspoken yet palpable in our shared space, an acknowledgement that something was amiss but unwillingness or inability to confront it directly. "All right," he said finally, but not without lingering doubt shadowing his features. As night fell over our home like an unwelcome blanket dampening warmth once shared freely among us all, I sought solace elsewhere. My son's room beckoned softly in its familiarity like an old friend offering refuge from storms raging outside. I tiptoed down the hallway toward his door, painted in deep blue hues reminiscent of twilight skies, a color chosen during happier days when innocence still reigned supreme over burgeoning complexities surrounding us now. Knocking lightly before entering felt both natural yet foreign. Each time brought forth memories layered with both joy and sorrow intertwined inseparably within them, a bittersweet reminder of what lay ahead yet remained tantalizingly close at hand. He looked up from his desk scattered with textbooks and papers, a frown creasing his brow as though sensing unease in air thickening around us both like fog rolling across distant hills obscuring paths ahead. "Can we talk?" he asked hesitantly after studying my face closely enough that even silence spoke volumes exchanged between us both without utterance needed. "Yes," came out more fervently than intended. Urgency surged within me as anticipation hung heavy between breaths taken slowly yet purposefully. "What's going on?" He leaned forward slightly, a gesture filled with curiosity tinged by concern reflecting back at him layered within emotions swirling wildly around us both now caught in this moment suspended outside time itself. "I've been thinking about your future." My voice trailed off as uncertainty gripped tightly around each word spoken aloud. It felt dangerous, revealing what lay beneath surface calmness maintained thus far. "I know things have been weird lately," he admitted quietly after another pause stretched longer than necessary between us, filled only by tension crackling through air surrounding us. "You don't have to worry about anything." His reassurance seemed genuine yet tinged with something deeper lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for opportunity revealed underneath light-hearted facade worn so easily previously. But how could I reassure him when doubts clouded thoughts racing through mind unbidden? How could I explain tangled web woven together threading desires forbidden amidst love unconditional binding mother-son bond irrevocably altered forevermore? "I just want you to be happy." My voice trembled slightly, betraying emotions warring within, love mixed with longing interlaced tightly together, forming fabric delicate enough unravel quickly if tugged wrong way. He nodded slowly, understanding perhaps without needing further elaboration. That unspoken connection binding us stronger than any words exchanged thus far could ever convey, meaning truly held deep inside, hearts beating simultaneously alongside one another. In that moment clarity washed over me like cool breeze sweeping across sunlit fields, reminding life always teeters precariously upon edge, uncertainty waiting patiently until choices made reveal consequences, unforeseen lurking beneath surface calmness maintained outwardly long enough, shield hearts exposed openly now vulnerable, raw bare against reality looming ahead. The evening air felt thick with tension as I stood at the window, staring out into the dimming light of dusk. The neighborhood was alive with the sounds of laughter and music from the festival nearby, but inside my home, an oppressive silence loomed. My heart raced as I replayed the events of the day in my mind, each moment amplifying my internal conflict. I had thought that attending the family gathering would help ease the strain between us, that perhaps being surrounded by relatives would ground me. But instead, it only highlighted the chasm widening within me. My husband's laughter echoed in my ears, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing beneath my surface. He was blissfully unaware of the chaos that had taken root in my heart. As I prepared dinner that evening, I caught glimpses of my son moving about in his room, his presence both comforting and unsettling. The way he carried himself lately felt different, more mature yet tinged with a vulnerability that tugged at something deep within me. I couldn't shake off the feeling that he sensed my distance, that he was waiting for me to bridge the gap between us. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, jolting me from my thoughts. I glanced at the clock. It was late for visitors. My husband answered it first, and I heard a voice, one I hadn't expected to hear again so soon. "Hey. Is this a bad time?" It was our neighbor, Mark, standing on our doorstep with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I exchanged glances with my husband before stepping forward. "No, come in," I said, forcing a smile onto my face despite the unease swirling inside me. Mark entered and made small talk while we moved into the living room. He commented on the festival happening just down the street and mentioned how nice it was to see families enjoying themselves together. Each word felt like a reminder of what I was risking, what I could lose if things continued down this path. As we settled into casual conversation over drinks, I found myself increasingly distracted by thoughts of my son. Would he come down? Would he see Mark here? The idea sent a fresh wave of anxiety through me. "Where's your son?" Mark asked casually after a moment of silence stretched between us. "Upstairs," I replied too quickly, glancing towards the staircase as if expecting him to appear any moment. Mark nodded but seemed to pick up on something unspoken in my demeanor. "Everything okay? You seem tense." I forced out a laugh that fell flat against my lips. "Just one of those days." The conversation drifted back to lighter topics, sports, local events, but each laugh felt hollow as if we were all pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. The longer Mark stayed, the more restless I grew until finally deciding to excuse myself under some pretense. "I'll check on dinner," I said abruptly and hurried toward the kitchen before either could protest. Inside, I leaned against the counter and took a deep breath, trying to collect myself amid swirling emotions. My heart raced as memories flooded back, our shared moments filled with tenderness and longing that were becoming harder to ignore with every passing day. I closed my eyes for a moment and pictured his face, the way he looked at me when he thought no one else was watching, how his touch lingered long after our hands had separated. Each memory felt like an electric jolt through me, a reminder of what lay beneath our interactions masked by family norms and expectations. Suddenly footsteps approached from behind as Mark entered through the kitchen doorway without knocking. "You okay?" he asked softly, concern etched across his features. I nodded quickly but didn't meet his gaze, instead focusing on stirring something aimlessly in a pot on the stove while battling rising emotions threatening to spill over like boiling water. "Are you sure? It seems like you're carrying more than just dinner," he pressed gently yet firmly enough for me to sense sincerity behind his words. Before I could respond or even think clearly about how much honesty would be appropriate given our situation, a sound broke through from upstairs, followed by muffled voices drifting down towards us. Unmistakable laughter mingled with something else entirely different, a sound too intimate for family ears alone. My heart dropped as realization hit hard like an unexpected wave crashing against fragile shores. It wasn't just laughter echoing through hallways. It was him sharing moments freely without reservation or fear while remaining blissfully unaware of consequences looming dangerously close over every decision made thus far. "Mom," came his voice, suddenly breaking through layers built around vulnerability mixed with youthful exuberance, an anchor pulling me back into reality away from spiraling thoughts threatening escape beyond control altogether. "Coming." I called back, trying desperately not let panic seep into tone while fighting urge run upstairs, instead face whatever awaited their head-on, instead hiding behind closed doors pretending everything remained untouched despite realities changing around us all. Mark lingered near entrance, looking uncertain now too, caught between wanting comfort offered or stepping back respecting boundaries established long ago. Either choice felt heavy-laden consequences, unseen waiting patiently beneath surface calmness maintained outwardly long enough, shield hearts exposed openly, now vulnerable, raw, bare against reality looming ahead. When dinner finally concluded amidst awkward exchanges filled with forced laughter masking underlying tensions simmering beneath surface, all three of us sat quietly together, absorbing weight carried unspoken words hanging heavily in air surrounding us like thick fog, suffocating everything around until finally breaking silence once more. "I think we should talk," I said quietly, meeting both their gazes, determinately refusing let fear dictate choices made anymore. Whatever lay ahead needed confronting boldly rather than letting darkness fester unchecked within confines hidden away forevermore. But before either could respond, a loud knock echoed from front door, startling all three of us into silence once again. Heartbeat quickened, racing faster than ever before as dread washed over realizing who might stand waiting outside. The knock reverberated through the house, a sharp reminder of reality intruding on our fragile moment. My heart raced, a mix of dread and adrenaline coursing through me. I glanced at my son, whose expression mirrored my own, with fear and uncertainty etched on his face. We had ventured too far into uncharted territory, and now, the world outside threatened to pull us back. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The innocence in his tone tugged at my heartstrings. I had promised him honesty, but how could I reconcile that with the chaos that loomed at our doorstep? "Just a moment," I called out, trying to steady my voice. Each second felt like an eternity as the knocking persisted, more insistent now. My husband was home early, I could sense it in my bones. The air grew thick with tension as I exchanged a glance with my son, who seemed to grasp the gravity of our situation. "Should we hide?" he asked, his eyes wide with panic. "No," I replied firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at me. "We need to face this together." I took a deep breath and moved towards the door, each step heavy with consequence. What would he say? How would he react? As I reached for the doorknob, a wave of doubt washed over me. What if this was the end of everything I held dear, the end of our fragile balance? I opened the door slowly, revealing my husband standing there with an unreadable expression on his face. He looked tired yet resolute, as if he carried burdens far heavier than mine. "Hey," he said simply, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. The scent of fresh rain clung to him, a reminder of normalcy that felt so distant now. "Hi," I managed to say, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "You're home early." He nodded but didn't respond further. Instead, his gaze flickered between me and our son standing awkwardly nearby. The silence stretched uncomfortably as if we were all waiting for someone to break it. "I was just talking to," I began but faltered under the weight of his scrutiny. "Can we sit down?" he interrupted gently but firmly. My stomach twisted as we settled around the dining table, our usual gathering place now transformed into an arena where unspoken truths hung heavily in the air. My son sat across from us, glancing nervously between us as if sensing that this conversation would change everything. "I have something important to discuss," my husband said finally, breaking the silence that felt suffocating. I braced myself for whatever revelation lay ahead, dread coiled tightly in my chest like a spring ready to snap. "What is it?" I asked cautiously. He took a deep breath before continuing. "I got offered a promotion at work, a big one." His eyes sparkled with excitement mixed with apprehension. "It means relocating, out of state." The words struck like lightning, unexpected and jarring. A part of me wanted to celebrate his success while another part recoiled in fear at what this meant for us all. "When?" I asked quickly before I could think better of it. "In 3 months," he replied matter-of-factly. 3 months felt like both an eternity and a heartbeat away all at once, time ticking down toward an inevitable decision about our lives and relationships. "I think it's great," my son chimed in hesitantly, clearly trying to gauge our reactions while masking his own turmoil beneath layers of youthful optimism. "Yeah, great," I echoed weakly while battling conflicting emotions within myself, the urge to support my husband battling against the instinctive desire for something different entirely. As silence enveloped us again, the weight of unspoken words pressing down, I caught sight of my son's troubled expression reflecting back at me, It mirrored every question swirling through my mind. What would happen if we left? Could we truly uproot ourselves now when everything felt so precarious? I need some time to think about it, I finally managed to say after what felt like ages spent lost in thought. My husband nodded slowly but didn't push further. Instead, he reached across the table and squeezed my hand reassuringly, a gesture that should have comforted me but only amplified confusion swirling inside. After what seemed like hours spent exchanging glances filled with unspoken fears and hopes, my mind racing through possibilities, the conversation shifted back towards mundane topics, dinner plans and weekend outings planned ahead. But beneath it all lingered an undercurrent charged with tension. Something had irrevocably changed between us all tonight without any clear resolution offered yet. As night fell around us, the sun dipping low beyond rooftops, I excused myself under pretense needing fresh air outside. Stepping onto porch where shadows danced under dim light cast from nearby street lamps illuminated familiar surroundings tinged by unfamiliar feelings brewing within. My thoughts spiraled back towards moments spent alone with him, the warmth shared during massages filled with tenderness laced by forbidden desire. Memories flooded back vividly as if they were tangible ghosts whispering secrets only meant for two. We kissed. The thought echoed hauntingly through my mind, a potent reminder that love could exist even amidst chaos, yet guilt gnawed relentlessly at edges threatening unravel everything built thus far. Suddenly footsteps approached behind me, breaking reverie abruptly. Turning around revealed my son standing there watching quietly, his expression unreadable yet intense enough, sending shivers coursing down spine, making heart race faster than ever before. "What are we going to do?" he asked softly, breaking silence hanging heavy between us, now thickening further still. Before responding fully, I noticed movement from corner eye catching attention just beyond porch railing. Unfamiliar figure lingering outside, shadows watching closely. Fear surged anew as realization struck hard. Someone else knew, someone else was aware. My heart dropped into abyss beneath weight, crushing realization looming ominously overhead, threatening consequences neither of us could foresee.